Today, we're riding every line on America's busiest light rail system, the San Diego Trolley. We'll start on the Blue Line at its northern terminus in La Jolla and take it all the way down to its southern terminus, mere feet from the US-Mexico border. We'll then ride the Blue Line back into downtown, connect with the Orange Line, and ride that trolley east to El Cajon. We'll transfer to the Copper Line, making a short round trip to Santee and back to El Cajon, where we'll connect with the Green Line. Finally, we'll take that trolley all the way down to the heart of downtown San Diego, the Gaslamp Quarter. Along the way, we'll stop at the most noteworthy stations and landmarks, tracing the path of the old streetcar and heavy rail alignments that some of today's trolleys still operate on. We're talking transit-oriented development projects, ideas for future trolley expansion, and much, much more. And we're doing it right here from 4th Place, your place to learn about US geography, urbanism, transportation, and city planning. While the name San Diego Trolley might make it seem like the system operates like a tram or streetcar, its operations are much more capable and streamlined. Today, San Diego's metro transit system runs 4 trolley lines, all organized by color: blue, orange, green, copper, and sometimes silver. The Silver Line is a limited heritage streetcar service running a loop around downtown, but it's only open on select holidays, so it's not a reliable everyday transit option. Because of San Diego's topography, the trolley looks a lot different depending on where you are in the city. The system runs at grade, above grade, and below grade at various points throughout its 67-mile length. We're boarding here along an elevated viaduct at UTC Station, the northern terminus of the Blue Line. This line is the newest extension of the trolley system, having opened in November 2021 despite tremendous pushback from La Jolla's coastal NIMBY population. Despite already having operated for 4 years, the trolley here still feels incredibly new to me. Before I moved to LA, I actually lived and went to school in San Diego, and I can vividly remember the earliest stages of construction here. $2 billion from the federal government later, and look, finally, both major universities are now connected to downtown and to each other via the trolley. The University Town Center Zone, or UTC, before the addition of the Blue Line extension, was one of the most car-congested areas in San Diego. Obvious when you take a look at all of the mega-wide stroads running through the place. But after the Blue Line extension, that's been noticeably different. It's still pretty bad. I mean, the Blue Line didn't actually remove the poorly planned urban roads, but instead gave locals a second, better, safer option, just higher up. It's no coincidence then that ever since the Blue Line extension opened, it's been far and away the trolley's most popular line. Beneath the boarding platform I was waiting on, I noticed the abandoned Costa Verde shopping center, built in 1989. Recently, in early 2025, the owner of this site announced that plans are in the works to transform the land into a brand new, mixed-use, transit-oriented micro-neighborhood. If built by its current 2028 schedule, it would add up to 3,500 residential units, 18,000 square feet of community-serving stores, 18,000 square feet of restaurants, over 250,000 square feet of office space, and a 112-room hotel. All that sounds great, and certainly looks promising as long as this project actually sees through to completion. But for now, we've got a trolley to board. After pushing back from UTC Station, the Blue Line then makes 5 stops in the La Jolla area. We hit Executive Drive, UCSD Health, UCSD Central Campus, VA Medical Center, and Nobel Drive, all within about a minute of each other. It would then be another 7 minutes before we arrived at our next station, Balboa. It's not a great station location, being wedged between Interstate 5 and a whole lot of car centricity, but at least you can connect to the 27, 43, and 8 bus routes here. And if you're brave enough, you can attempt a journey on foot or on bike down Garnett Avenue into the neighborhood of Pacific Beach, the armpit of San Diego, if you will. My advice for visitors? Skip PB and head up Mission Road to the neighborhood of Bird Rock instead. It's way more low-key, way nicer, and more scenic. An overall more enjoyable hidden gem in the city. It would be super cool to see a light rail extension through the neighborhoods around here, like Mission Beach, Ocean Beach, and Sunset Cliffs. Maybe along a similar alignment to the old San Diego Electric Railway from over a century ago. I think it would get a ton of use. Here's what I'd like to see from a new proposed Red Line trolley. For the city of San Diego, car-free connections serving these highly car-congested beachfront neighborhoods would be invaluable. After Balboa, we continued past the strip malls and auto-centric stations at Claremont Drive and Tecolote Road, and continued into San Diego's urban core. Our next station, though, is Old Town Transit Center. This is a major transportation hub in the city, with services on par with San Diego's main transportation hub downtown, which we'll get to in a second. Here you can catch the 28, 44, 30, 105, 9, 88, 10, 35, 8, 83, and 84 buses, as well as both the green and blue trolley lines, and San Diego's Coaster Commuter Rail line, and Amtrak's Pacific Surfliner train. It's just a huge junction all around. And if you aren't in Old Town to connect via bus or train, Old Town San Diego is a great place for a stroll through some historical landmarks too. The Blue Line trolley shares the Green Line's tracks as it continues southbound, circumventing San Diego International Airport. There have been a lot of talks about adding an Orange Line extension to the airport, or hell, even a people mover system, but it's never actually culminated in anything. In my video all about the airport, I mentioned that during the renovation process, they have added a dedicated space for a light rail terminus. But I'd like to see more action on the part of MTS and the mayor's office to actually get the ball rolling on construction here. As of 2025, there is no station serving the airport directly, and instead both Washington Street Station and Middletown Station provide service for the various auto shops, car rentals, and parking structures just outside the airport. Hopefully America's 8th largest city can get it together and build some sort of airport connector sometime soon. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see for now. For how long is anybody's guess. But a recent study did show that a link would take around 10 years to complete, all said and done. But after Middletown Station, the Blue Line then arrived at County Center Little Italy. Great station, great location, great surrounding developments, no notes here. Other than just telling you Little Italy is one of the best places to live in the entire city of San Diego for car-free folks. If you can afford it anyway. Shortly thereafter, we pulled into my favorite station in the trolley system, Santa Fe Depot. This building was constructed by the Santa Fe Railway back in 1915 and has an incredibly rich history that I do plan to make an entire video about all on its own. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. Today's Santa Fe Depot is a lot different than it was over 100 years ago, though. Along with serving the trolley's green and blue lines, it acts as the terminus for both Amtrak's Pacific Surfliner and Coaster Commuter Rail trains. The depot is where the blue and green line trolleys diverge again, so since we're bound for Mexico, we continued on the Blue Line east through downtown. The next stop after Santa Fe Depot is kinda strange when you think about it. America Plaza Station is literally just across the street. There's been a lot of realignment here in the past decade, but if MTS really wanted to keep the heavy rail and light rail traffic separate, at least one of these stations probably shouldn't have been built. And I know which one I prefer. The Blue Line trolley then made a slow chug along West C Street, running parallel to the Orange Line, but we didn't actually stop at that trolley line's western terminus at Courthouse. Instead, the Blue Line made 4 other stops along the shared track segment, stopping at Civic Center, 5th Avenue, City College, and Park and Market. This collection of downtown stations is where the trolley unfortunately runs into a pretty rough patch of urban decay.
Since 2018, crimes including homicide, assault, robbery, sex offenses, vandalism, and more have been trending in the wrong direction, jumping by nearly a third in 2021 and then almost doubling the subsequent year, 2022.
Safety on public transit. It's top of mind this morning after a trolley passenger was slashed with a knife while asleep during a ride.
I knew there were sketchy people and it wasn't the safest thing to do, but I never expected to pretty much have my face broken.
A guy spitting at a girl, a guy peeing on the water bottle and throwing it at.
Some folks are on drugs and they just get set off for no reason. That type of stuff happens all the time, so that's a little frightening.
Look at it as a broader sense of vigilance that everybody should have in public spaces.
While other countries get to have safe, clean, orderly, and thorough public transit systems, the law-abiding American public is forced to put up with things like open-air drug use, obscenity, and a whole host of other awful things that nobody should have to worry about experiencing in and around a public transit station. These places are for public use, but that does not mean they're free-for-alls. No dad wants to take his kid to Petco Park to see the Padres, only for them to see someone tweaking out or covered in filth on the trolley. In a lot of my experiences riding public transit all throughout America, there's a lot of things lately that get me thinking just what happened to common decency and a sense of decorum in our shared public spaces. It's really disappointing to see that this is still tolerated in our cities in 2025. And you also have to take into account that antisocial behavior and open-air drug use directly drives ridership down, and overall it just makes it way more difficult to draw normal people into the urban core, whether to live, work, ride the trolley, or just hang out in places like the East Village or downtown in general. San Diego is trying desperately in their urban renewal efforts downtown. They're building a lot of density and doing some cleaning up at least. But the fact still remains. In downtown San Diego, open-air drug use and vagrancy is everywhere. It's no wonder then why all of the commercial units surrounding the downtown stations still remain abandoned for years on end. Look, if American urbanists are striving for European levels of public transit access, then they also need to push for European levels of public safety in American streets. Cities need to fundamentally change the way they police crime in and around public transit. Maybe then more people would actually ride them, and then maybe more light rail would be built because of that. After we made our way through downtown, we eventually reached the city's principal transfer station at 12th and Imperial, located in between the MTS yards and Petco Park. 12th and Imperial acts as a terminus for the Green Line and the point at which all of the San Diego trolley lines converge. You can catch the 4, 12, 901, 910, and 924 buses here. The station was actually built into the James R. Mills building, which is the tower that houses MTS headquarters. This won't be the last time we'll be at 12th and Imperial though, so let's continue south through San Diego's Barrio Logan neighborhood. Here, the Blue Line follows Harbor Drive, parallel to the city's industrial shipping ports, and then right through Naval Base San Diego. I kinda hate the development pattern along this stretch of the Blue Line, and this is why. One long, seemingly continuous surface parking lot was built here starting from Barrio Logan Station, through Harborside Station, through Pacific Fleet Station, and all the way to 8th Street Station in National City. I guess this is our first real taste of the trolley's park and ride capacity, which, as you know, can be uniquely, Americanly, backwards. Even though these 4 stations were built as park and rides, with their proximity to downtown, they really shouldn't have been. Or at the very least, they should have been built to encourage more infill instead of just being the infill itself. Light rail stations are at their best when there's actually things to walk and bike to around them. That way, when you actually get off the station, there's something to go to other than more parking lot. From 8th Street south, the Blue Line follows the path of the 5 once again. This time stopping at Chula Vista's park and ride stations 24th Street, E Street, H Street, Palomar Street, Palm Avenue, Iris Avenue, and Bayer Boulevard. These stations are more or less monolithic, all being located deep in San Diego County's blue-collar suburbs, complete with large surface lots typically oriented around body shops, strip malls, or worse yet, full-on power centers. The Blue Line then crosses over the 605, where the hills of Tijuana, Mexico finally reveal themselves out in the distance. Soon enough, the Blue Line pulled into its southern terminus, San Ysidro Station, mere feet from the US-Mexico border. The trolley actually lets you out directly in front of the Customs and Border Protection building. How crazy is that? Aside from the actual border crossing itself, you'll also find a lot of ancillary businesses, like fast food restaurants, money exchange outposts, duty-free markets, cheap wireless stores, and ATMs. Even though I was still in America while standing outside of the trolley station, I still felt like I was the only actual American here to begin with, which is kinda crazy. The other major point of interest near the trolley station? This outlet mall, notable for no other reason than how weird it is that their parking lot was literally built inches away from the border fence itself. The fact that the Blue Line reaches an international border at all is crazy, and it got me wondering if there are any other light rail systems in America that do the same. Well, in Detroit, Michigan, both its Q line and its People Mover can get you within feet of the Detroit-Windsor border crossing tunnel, but you can't actually walk or bike through that, so it doesn't really count. Buffalo, New York's closest light rail stop to the Peace Bridge into Fort Erie, Canada is the Allen Medical Campus Station. It's a 2-mile, 45-minute walk and 15-minute bike ride to the Canadian border crossing. It's decent, but I think we can do better. It's none other than the city of El Paso, Texas that offers the second closest light rail service to an international border. It's nearly just as close as San Ysidro. El Paso's downtown loop streetcar stops mere feet from the border crossing at the Father Rom El Paso station. Coincidentally, I was just in El Paso and paid a visit to both the streetcar and the border crossing before making this video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that video coming out very, very soon. But back to San Diego, where we still have a lot more light rail to explore. Now that we've ridden the entire length of the Blue Line, we'll then connect back in downtown with the Orange Line at 12th and Imperial, riding that train all the way out east to its terminus in El Cajon. After transferring to the Orange Line at 12th and Imperial, it made its way down Commercial Street through one of the city's major urban industrial corridors. Between our next two stations, you'll be able to spot tons of old railroad tracks embedded in the road that were originally part of the San Diego, Cuyamaca, and Eastern Railroad. In fact, almost the entire path of the Orange Line, and even some of the Blue Line, follow the path of that old alignment, initially built throughout the early 1880s. The trolleys have been realigned so many times since the system first opened back in 1981, but on occasion you can still experience some of the oddities that come from operating on a 19th century rail alignment. For instance, right here, where the Orange Line moves in a strange U-shape just after 32nd and Commercial. The alignment here would have been built as such to make it easier for the old steam locomotives to make up ground up this steep hill. And right after riding the U, the trolley runs into yet another oddity here at Mount Hope Cemetery, where apparently the cemetery has expanded around the railroad tracks over the last 100 plus years. East of the 805, the Orange Line officially enters post-war suburban sprawl, making its next stops at both 47th Street and Euclid Avenue, and then running along Imperial Avenue up Lemon Grove Avenue. It then makes two more stops at Encanto's 62nd Street and Massachusetts Avenue before reaching Lemon Grove Depot. Unfortunately, this station isn't actually an 1880s original, just a duplicate built in the 1980s. After this stop and the subsequent Spring Street station, the Orange Line continued towards another historic site, La Mesa Boulevard Station. The station itself sits adjacent to the restored La Mesa Depot Museum, a former San Diego and Cuyamaca railway station built in 1894, making it the oldest surviving commercial building in La Mesa today. Overall, I do like the Main Street community that has been getting better and better over the years here. The shops, restaurants, and overall pedestrianization is really nice when you're walking through downtown La Mesa. It just sucks that you have to cross a giant strode to get there. Even the most so-called walkable parts of East San Diego are, sadly, still incredibly car-centric. You'll notice that being a theme here for our remaining Orange Line stops, including our next stop, Grossmont. While the station itself does have some surrounding residential density, the surrounding development at Grossmont Center is just wow. This place is an ugly monster of a commercial development, and it probably should have been put to rest by 2010 in order to make way for some better land use. You know, like all of that new mixed-use housing that San Diego desperately needs more of. Anyways, after Grossmont, the Orange Line makes a quick stop at Amaya Drive before finally reaching its eastern terminus at El Cajon Transit Center. This is yet another major transfer point for the trolley system, though the station itself isn't much more than a park-and-ride hub and a warehouse zone off the interstate. Still, you can find a number of major bus connections here, and also the connection to the Green Line, which we'll get back to in a second. Even though the green and orange trolleys end here, for the Copper Line, this is just the beginning, so we'll need to hop on a brand new set of tracks to transfer to this trolley. The Copper Line was opened in 2024 and extends just 3.8 miles, making two stops outside of its two termini. First, at Arnell Avenue, in the middle of an auto park, and then at Gillespie Field, nearby a small airstrip. But shortly thereafter, things got a little weird as the Copper Line trolley inched its way into its northern terminus, Santee Trolley Square. This place is exactly what it looks like. Light rail tracks built at grade, cutting through a massive strip mall parking lot. Well, it's unique, at least it's got that going for it. And yes, they did indeed build some retail space on either side of the tracks through the surface lot itself, only with one caveat. The entrances to said shops aren't oriented inwards towards the promenade and the tram, You know, like you'd see in a normal first world country. Instead, the shops face outwards towards the massive parking lot. I get why they did it. In a place like Santee, most people are arriving here in their private cars. But that's only because of how America has built and continues to build public spaces like this. Imagine a reality where East San Diego instead built places for people instead of cars, or at least allowed them to be built. You'd have so much less space dedicated to parking, a lot less drunk driving fatalities, a lot less hit and runs, a lot less fender benders, and don't think I forgot about the mental health effects of having to drive in Southern California too. Like, just imagine how many more jobs places like Lemon Grove, La Mesa, El Cajon, and Santee would have if so much of the land wasn't wasted on car-centric development. Here at Santee Trolley Square, instead of reimagining a commercial space focused on people, developers let the car dictate their planning yet again. And the result is yet another sad strip mall town center that happens to have a local trolley shuttle going through it. Neither the trolley nor the people were ever the centers of concern here. So after exploring Trolley Square for a bit, I hopped back on the Copper Line, bound for El Cajon, where I then transferred onto the Green Line and rode that to our first new stop solely along the Green Line, 70th Street Station. Like the Blue Line for UC San Diego, the Green Line is a major lifeline providing car-free public transit for faculty and students at San Diego State University. After 70th Street, the first station in the university area is UCSD Health East. But that's confusing though, right? We're here at SDSU, not UCSD. The reason for this confusion is because ever since 2021, when UCSD bought Alvarado Hospital, the medical center located directly in front of this trolley station, it's been called UCSD Health East, despite all of the surrounding SDSU off-campus housing and research offices. Which I'm sure SDSU wasn't too happy about. It turns out that even light rail stations aren't safe from college rivalries. The station is mostly used by the students, medical staff, and research professionals I just mentioned, though I think it could be used for so much more. Given the meteoric rise in applicants and enrollment at SDSU, I think it would be so wise for them to consider funding a large-scale, mixed-use campus extension project here. If you're not already familiar with how much of a massive waste of land use this area is, let me enlighten you. You see, SDSU's campus is nowhere near as sprawling as UCSD's, meaning it would be great for walking and biking on campus if it weren't for the school being built on a giant hill. Because of this, people living in off-campus apartments around this station often end up just driving onto campus in order to avoid the long, sweaty, hilly hike up Alvarado Road through parking structures. To solve this, and also to quell the rise in demand for on-campus housing, SDSU should completely tear down its own dated housing complex located here, along with its massive surface lot. In its place, it would construct a real, dense college village with markets and restaurants and other amenities. I think you could build 2 twin buildings here, no taller than 10 floors, adding a central plaza in the middle where students could hang out. SDSU is going to want to make this area as attractive to incoming students as possible, as well as try to make them feel more connected to the central campus atop the hill. So to do that, SDSU will need to help fund the construction of a new trolley station, built here, out from the existing viaduct. With a pre-existing pedestrian bridge across Alvarado Creek, they can easily implement access points on either side of the waterway, for students both living in the new West Side buildings, but also living in the new East Side complex, where SDSU will develop their dormant surface lots, along with its parking lot-filled mid-century modern research buildings. There's a lot of space here, so there's many things you can do, but most importantly, build more housing. Once complete, SDSU will have built itself hundreds, if not thousands, of new on-campus housing units, and a brand new light rail station which they can aptly name SDSU East Campus Station, or something. This should be a top priority for San Diego State University, full stop. Leaving this area behind, the Green Line trolley then enters a tunnel at East Campus Drive, bored underneath the hill that SDSU sits on. This is the only stretch of the trolley system where it operates through an underground tunnel, making SDSU Transit Center the trolley's one and only underground station. Take the elevator up and you're met with a really beautiful outdoor plaza situated in the heart of the university. You'll hardly ever see any students hanging out here though, mostly because this station has become a notorious hotspot for crime, indecency, and even a shootout last year. The public stigma that transit hubs attract crime will go away when they no longer attract crime, even anecdotally, because when it's happening so often, it's no longer anecdotal. And tolerating a little bit here and there instead of fully and swiftly addressing that problem will only prolong that public perception. This is especially concerning here because SDSU station's car-free capabilities are a lifeline for freshman students who aren't permitted to have a car on campus. As far from San Diego's urban core as we are here, the only feasible way to go anywhere if you're a student, be that to a bar, the beach, downtown, pretty much anything, would be to drive. That is, if it weren't for the Green Line. After exiting the tunnel underneath SDSU, the trolley then makes its way back onto an elevated viaduct, crosses over the 8, makes a stop at Granville Station, another relative island of transit-oriented development surrounded by surface lots and warehouses, and then runs parallel to the 8, making yet another stop at Mission San Diego, before finally arriving at Stadium Station. This area has changed a lot since my college days. In 2020, San Diego State University purchased the pre-existing Qualcomm Stadium site in order to build a brand new stadium. But the school didn't just stop there. This stadium is only one part of a massive $3.5 billion ongoing development called SDSU Mission Valley. As of today, work has already been done to complete SDSU Mission Valley River Park, along with its brand new hike and bike loop. And there's so much more underway. The site plans include new housing, office, retail, and hotel space, complete with a total of 80 acres of open green space. SDSU Mission Valley is slated for development in phases over the next 10 years. I am really excited to see the site unfold, and I spent a lot of time here exploring it in June 2025, so stay tuned for a whole video all about that coming soon. Moving right along, the Green Line rolls into Fenton Parkway Station, next to yet another car-centric mess of a power center, and then continues on stopping at Rio Vista Station before reaching Mission Valley Station, right behind a strip mall that wants to be a lifestyle center. We then continued into Hazard Center Station. Every time I would ride past this place in college, I couldn't help but think to myself, why the hell this station and its adjacent development ever got built in the first place? The shopping center hasn't been able to attract a long-term customer base for two main reasons. First, it's literally just a double-decker car-centric strip mall in the middle of a canyon, so organic foot traffic to Hazard Center has always been near zero. And second, it's unable to attract any steady flow of car traffic because it's literally sandwiched in between two of the city's largest mid-century mega malls, Mission Valley and Fashion Valley. Unenjoyable for pedestrians, undesirable for cars. Combine that with a constant struggle to fill retail space, and it's pretty obvious that this place was doomed from the start. It doesn't look like it's getting better anytime soon either, with its latest shift in ownership. The new owners plan to rebrand Hazard Center, using the new name The Landing at Hazard. That's kinda strange, but at least they're gonna tear the place down and replace it with a new mixed-use space, right? Oh. They're just gonna paint it black and white? Literally do nothing else at all? Man, what a shame. But moving right along, the Green Line's next stop is at Fashion Valley. Or is it? Here we have yet another strange trolley station situation. You might not believe me when I say this, but they built this light rail station literally on top of a parking structure. Could there be anything more American? Fashion Valley Station is an elevated station situated over Riverwalk Drive, built along the elevated viaduct. Beneath the platform is where the passengers connect to the city bus, but connecting the platform to the mall itself is a bridge built into an actual parking structure. It's always a bit weird getting to Fashion Valley via trolley, but it's a popular way to arrive nonetheless. It's amazing the lengths Americans will go to put band-aids all over our bullet wounds instead of the amputation places like this need. Although a complete redevelopment is more than called for here at Fashion Valley, we don't need to entirely remove outdoor malls from our cities to make them better places. We just need to inject them with more urbanism and better land use principles. America's malls can take a page out of Seattle's handbook, and look how they were able to transform a place like University Village. It's not perfect, but at least it's got more housing, a smaller parking footprint, and way more pedestrianization than it ever did back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Americans love the feel, amenities, and walkability of places like this because they resemble actual European communities that humans naturally gravitate towards. But what if instead of acting like communities, they actually were built to be communities? Just a little thought experiment. Nevertheless, I moved on, riding through Morena Linda Vista Station before merging back onto the shared tracks at Old Town Station, and then continuing through the stations we first visited on the Blue Line, before arriving at the final stretch of the Green Line along MLK Promenade. First up, Seaport Village Station. This station serves traffic stemming from the surrounding 90s-era residential complexes, but also from its namesake shopping complex. This is another place that deserves an entire dedicated video all to itself, as it too is undergoing a multi-billion-dollar redevelopment. San Diego hopes to one day turn the site into something resembling Boston's Seaport district, which is really exciting to hear about. It's always been billed as a car-free space, but that's obviously never been true. The parking lot is bigger than the village itself. Suffice to say, I'm looking forward to what's in store here. Shortly thereafter, the Green Line rolls into Convention Center Station, which is always pretty popular, but never more so than during San Diego Comic-Con. And finally, after a long day riding the light rail, we arrive at the one and only Gaslamp Quarter Station. I wish it was a little more green, a little more inviting, but there's no doubt that this is the main portal for fun in downtown San Diego. Whether you want to connect to the Coronado Ferry, catch a Padres game at Petco Park, or just explore the Gaslamp Quarter like I did, this is the station for all of it, and a perfect end to this wild ride. So, after all of this, is San Diego trolley system really even the busiest light rail system in America? Well, there's actually some debate about that. In 2022 and 2023, it was very much America's undisputed busiest light rail system. But by the end of 2024, when I was actually in the middle of planning out and even shooting parts of this video, that suddenly changed. According to data from the American Public Transportation Association, as of January 2025, it's apparently the LA Metro rail system that finally surpassed the San Diego trolley in its annual ridership, with LA recording approximately 46.2 million trips compared to San Diego's 41.1 million. Regardless of who's truly number one these days, what we do know for certain is that this stat alone proves just how much of a light rail powerhouse Southern California has been in recent years. People have never been more sick and tired of being stuck in traffic, at the mercy of the automobile. People have never been more sick and tired of not being able to walk around their sprawling cities and suburbs and car-centric neighborhoods. And to think even more people would ride the trolley and push for more public transit if it were just a little safer, cleaner, and better connected. It's entirely cyclical though. Better transit, more transit. More transit, better transit. Maybe then MTS would get around to building a light rail line through this extremely popular area of streetcar suburbs surrounding Balboa Park. Maybe they could build a 21st century streetcar loop, connecting with the Green Line at Rio Vista Station and with City College Station downtown, just like I've drawn up in this map you're seeing right now. Could you imagine the benefits of a streetcar loop running through Balboa Park? An addition like that would be legendary, and wouldn't be the first time it happened either. North Park, South Park, Hillcrest, Bankers Hill, University Heights, all of these neighborhoods started out as streetcar suburbs, so why not add the streetcar back where it belongs? It would no doubt make this area of San Diego feel so much more connected, and it would certainly make the trolley system feel like it has a bigger purpose other than just for commuting. There are a lot of transit-oriented development projects slated for the stations that already exist, and the trolley will only become more important to the city's transportation landscape as time passes. But what about future stations? Well, I'm sorry to report that, as of now, there are no future stations planned, or any light rail altogether, but that hasn't been for a lack of trying. First, in 2012, MTS did study the feasibility of a Balboa Park streetcar line, but that never actually went anywhere. Second, San Diego tried to pass funding for a new Purple Line through Kearny Mesa, but the NIMBYs won out there too. And as for the airport connector, well, nobody knows what's going on there. San Diego's own regional planners have dreamed up this 2050 map of urban excellence inside their mobility master plans, but if no one can agree on who's gonna pay for it all, I'm not sure we'll see anything even close to this by 2050, 2080, or 2100 for that matter. The need for light rail transit in this country is so deep. Sadly, most Americans have developed a Stockholm syndrome around funding it though. A reality where most urban Americans hate driving, but wouldn't dream of living without their cars. This is all very fixable though. Support pro-transit politicians, support police enforcement in and around our public transit, remove the handcuffs on our transportation agencies by getting rid of all the junk we're spending on and investing in the future of public transit. If done correctly, this would completely solve the need for ballot measures and having to raise taxes in order to fund transit expansion. We also need to market light rail better too. And maybe most importantly, give the public little to no say over city planners when discussing the best possible route alignments. Planners know best, not NIMBYs trying to get the light rail alignment moved from their backyard. So, in summary, build more light rail. Once that happens, then I will be glad to say that paying to live in America's most expensive city is actually, truly worth it. And I really hope I get to see that day through. For now though, I'll see you next week from 4th place.